Today on Follow the Money, we dive into the shifting tides of the global semiconductor industry. With the rise of DeepSeek AI and its geopolitical implications, NVIDIA's sudden stock crash, and the intensifying U.S.-China chip war, how will these developments reshape the playing field for countries like the Philippines? Joining us is Dr. Dan Lachica, president of the Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines Foundation, or SEIPI, to discuss the implications of these headline-grabbing developments and how the Philippines is positioning itself amid global disruptions. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan, and welcome to Follow the Money.
Thank you, Ray. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Grateful to have you. Now, Dan, DeepSeek AI has been described as a potential game changer in China's tech arsenal. From your perspective, what are the immediate and long-term effects of its rise on the global semiconductor industry?
Well, believe it or not, we kind of missed the train on this AI chips. What happened was with the previous administration and Create Law, we kind of drove away some investments that should have come to the Philippines. These investments would have positioned us to be at the forefront of AI chips development and supply. But unfortunately, we missed the train on that one. And so, in fact, that's the reason why we've experienced contraction 10% 2 years ago, 8% this year. But with the previous administration, we're looking forward to turn the corner and essentially get back on track to attract this investments in new products and technologies. Now, as far as the DeepSeek chips, I was actually at NVIDIA, I guess, Monday last week. We had a Philippine pavilion at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And after that, we went to Silicon Valley to visit some a couple of companies who can be our potential export destinations. And one of them is NVIDIA. NVIDIA, not many people know, started in the gaming business, but they really hit it big with AI. And, they're actually looking at launching their new products. But this is, basically, I'm sure it was a surprise to them. Maybe not so much of a surprise, but it was a shock to them that China came up with this new chip. And in fact, the stock market actually reacted. They had a 70% drop in stocks, which translated to about a 600 million loss overnight. And so the thing to do really would be to accelerate the introduction of new products to counter this Chinese AI chip. But it's just like the geopolitical war or the economic war. I think this is just going to continue. It's just a matter of being able to do your product launches sooner than later, heighten your R&D, and basically respond to what the market needs. NVIDIA will still be around. They're actually overtaken Apple as the biggest, Intel as Apple as the biggest electronics company. But, they will be around. They will recover. As far as the Philippines goes, like I said, the new administration has basically recognized the semiconductor industry as a priority industry. And we've actually seen some actions, proactive actions in terms of helping us recover, like I said, from the doldrums of back-to-back contraction to hopefully help us turn the corner, maybe get some modest growth for 2025. And a big part of that really would be the correction of some of the weaknesses of the Create Law. And so, in fact, that's why we have the Create More Act. And we're actually being asked to, our inputs have been solicited to see how the Create More law can be further improved. And hence, we will be providing inputs with our, to the IRR. Things, for example, like, ensuring that the VAT for constructive exporters are maintained, the 100% incentives or deduction for the power cost of the company, and maybe insulating the locators from the inconsistent rules in the LGU. So a lot of stuff like that that really reinforces the fact that our government has prioritized the electronics industry, and we're here open for business, waiting for the new investments in new products and technologies to come.
But also you're growing your markets, your export markets. If I'm not mistaken, you were actively courting TSMC and UMC to establish facilities here in the Philippines. Has there been any commitment from any of these tech giants, American and Taiwanese tech giants, to invest more here in the Philippines? And will that bring us up to speed in what you said was the Philippines missing the train on the AI chip development and supply deals?
Well, UMC has a division for e-vehicles, and there has been active talk in terms of encouraging them to invest in hopefully e-vehicles in the Philippines. TSMC is a bigger challenge. They've invested, for one thing, TSMC in Taiwan accounts for like 70% of the world's supply of wafers, including the ones we use in the Philippines, right? And, they've invested $40 billion in 2 wafer fab facilities in Phoenix, and we hope that they would reconsider and put up like a wafer fab in the Philippines, but that's not going to happen. So what we've done really is talk to the government, specifically DOST, and came up with a proposal to start up a lab scale wafer fab as a proof of concept, and to train our people to support the IC design industry in doing their prototypes, and to get us ready, the supply chain, the infrastructure, to get our feet wet, so to speak, in the wafer fab fabrication business. This is something that I've been doing for 16 years in Silicon Valley before I repatriated. So I know it can be done in the Philippines, but there's just a lot of challenges to overcome to convince the world, including the United States, that we can excel not just in back-end assembly, test, and packaging, but we can also do front-end semiconductor wafer fab processing.
Well, I'm glad we're expanding our capabilities, but of course, Southeast Asia is positioning itself as a key semiconductor hub. Where does the Philippines stand in this race compared to its neighbors, and how do you see this affecting investor sentiment?
Well, like I said, we're very strong in assembly, test, and packaging. In fact, with the CHIPS Act, ITSI fund, the United States has allocated something like $13.7 billion to train, our university professors and eventually the workforce in the advanced assembly, test, and packaging for wafers that are going to come out of the high-tech wafer fabs in the United States. Unfortunately, the ASU, which has been commissioned by ITSI to do the training, they've started the workshops. They've made a couple of trips here, but unfortunately, with the halt or suspension, if you will, of the grants that the United States is doing, this activity has been suspended. In other words, we're going to have to wait until further guidance comes from the United States, so when we can resume this training. But nonetheless, like I said, 70% of the $45.6 billion export of the Philippines comes from semiconductors, primarily for assembly, test, and packaging. And we will continue to do that. And what we're trying to do here is, expand our ecosystem, if you will. We have some integrated circuit design companies that have started. We don't have the prototype capability builds for that. That's why we're proposing the lab scale wafer fab. And so we want to grow our IC design business and essentially complete the supply chain from IC design to some level of wafer fabrication, and of course feeding into the assembly, test, and packaging. Right. So we're just concerned about ensuring that we have the supply chain for wafers, especially if something happens to TSMC and Taiwan because of some geopolitical, economic challenges that are out in the horizon.
Talk about geopolitical challenges. With the White House evaluating DeepSeek as a national security threat, do you foresee similar tech-based competition or policies affecting Philippine partnerships with China or other countries? Should we be looking at the supply chain, our supply chain here in the Philippines, and checking it for national security threat.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you've heard talk about ensuring that we have supply chain security here in the Philippines. The fact that our semiconductor sector is controlled primarily by multinationals, so that's good in the sense that we will continue to, especially with the investment environment, we will continue with this activities in the semiconductor end. What is concerning, though, is if the supply chain is interrupted. Like I said, if we lose the wafer supply from Taiwan, primarily TSMC, then we're going to be in big trouble, right? So while I know that some sectors in the government, with the private sector, think it's premature, if not impossible, to do a wafer fab, strategically, I think it's in the right move, and I'm glad that DOST agrees with that, and hopefully we'll see how we can prosper that idea. We've been talking to a bank that would be interested in perhaps funding this lab scale wafer fab. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, we got to think long term. We got to think strategically. While we know that assembly, test, and packaging is the low hanging fruit, we can't ignore what will happen in the future strategically for the to preserve the semiconductor industry as the main commodity export and livelihood. We have about 3 million direct and indirect workers, so we want to make sure that they get continuous employment and of course grow the industry beyond where we are today.
Right. Well, Dan, unfortunately, we don't have enough time anymore, but I do want to ask you one last question. And of course, this is a special segment that we have, and we want to get down and personal with our guest, off the cuff, real life, follow the money question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, fire away.
Dr. Lachica, we know you're smart with your money, but let's be honest, everybody's got that one indulgence they cannot say no to. So our question for you is, what's the one thing you don't mind splurging on, no matter the cost?
I think first and foremost, if I were to be asked what my secret is, and that is trusting my wife with the money, because sometimes I may get frivolous and spend on some other unnecessary stuff, but my wife keeps the purse strings in control. But to your point, really, I don't spend a whole lot. In fact, my wife accuses me that I'm too stingy for myself. But when it comes to my family, when it comes to the children, the wife, and everything, I will splurge. I don't mind splurging. So that probably would be where the money trail is in our family.
All right, sounds good to me. Well, a smart home, a sharp mind, happy wife, happy life sounds like a winning combination. And if you don't mind, if you'd like this episode and want to join the conversation or answer our questions, share them with us. Social media, X, Facebook, and YouTube. #FollowTheMoneyBNC. We shall post some of those answers on our next episode. Thank you so much, Dr. Dan Lachica, President of SEIPI, for joining us today and addressing these urgent issues.
Thank you, Ray, and your viewers. God bless you.
It's an honor to see you and glad to have you. Thank you. To wrap up, it's clear that the rise of DeepSeek AI, NVIDIA's volatility, and the U.S.-China chip war are reminders of how dynamic and fragile the semiconductor landscape can be, underscoring the importance of the Philippines stepping up its value chain game to remain competitive.